It was incredible. All right, to my right is Joe Caffrey.
Hello.
To my left,
Lionel Richie.
oh, and we have Francis McNamee.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, let me just open it up with a few brief words. First of all, I want to thank Sting, Francis, Joe, the entire cast of The Last Ship, because this is an incredibly important day for us. It's an important day for our members in Oshawa. It's an important day for, frankly, Canadians, because they see that there is hope. They see that there is a different way of doing things. They see that if we pull together, we can actually work to change bad decisions. So today's performance was so important. It was so important because we live at a time where people with influence rarely poke out their head. And this is a situation where just the opposite happened today. So on behalf of our members, on behalf of our community, on behalf of the country, we would like to thank you so much for being here today. Francis, Joe, what an honor and a privilege.
Thanks, Jerry. Thank you. Well,
Thank you. Good night.
The first song you sang to the GM workers, many of them we talked to, they said that that had a special meaning for them. What was it like? What were you thinking when you were singing that and seeing their faces?
what message in the bottle?
Yeah.
You know, it's a song about wanting to make a connection, and it was very important to come here and make a connection with the workers here, because the story we're telling on the stage every night at the Princess of Wales is this story. It's a very human story. It's a very common story, and so we wanted to come here and express our solidarity and our support for their struggle. But it's quite uncanny, the parallel between what we're doing on stage every night and what we're seeing today. And look, these two look exactly like each other. They are. In fact, Jerry could play the role tonight if Joe feels.
If only I could sing.
Yeah.
It hasn't stopped him.
There we go.
Joke.
Yes, very good.
Okay. Go on then, ask me a question.
Can you break down the parallels between your experience growing up and the experience of the people here in Oshawa?
I come from a town called Wallsend on Tyneside in the northeast of England, and we only had two industries in the town. One was a coal mine and one was a shipyard. I lived within spitting distance of the shipyard, and as a young kid I would think that would be my destiny, because everyone worked in the shipyard. It was the last thing I wanted, actually. I did my level best to escape my town, and I did. I got a scholarship to a school, and then I became a singer and made extravagant amounts of money and traveled the world and got Grammy Awards and all of that. But I realized at one point in my life that I had to really return back home and honor the community that I was spawned in, because their story hadn't been told. The yard was closed by the government in the 80s, and you were one of the most famous shipyards in the world, building some of the largest vessels ever constructed on planet Earth right at the end of my street. The work was incredibly hard and very dangerous, but those men and women were incredibly proud of the work they did, of the ships that were built there. And so I wanted to invest the play with that sense of pride, that sense of community, that sense of dignity and decency. And I hope I've done a good job. I mean, I've asked people in my town who used to work in the shipyards if I was doing the right thing, and they said, yes, lad, you've done us proud. So I hope you feel the resonance here in this town. It's the same thing. You know, you have the dignity of your work, the pride of your work, who you are. You are what you do. That's one of the lines that Francis says in the play. You are what you do. You take that away, what are you?
Next question's from Rosie at the Toronto Star. Hold on, we've got a list for questions. Go ahead, Rosie.
Thank you for Sting. As somebody who held various jobs when you were younger, before you found musical success, What advice would you give to the 2,500 people who are about to lose their jobs and will have to reinvent themselves?
You know, I can't advise you. My life has had a pretty rarefied trajectory. I was very lucky to escape, if you like, and to have, you know, I was a school teacher for a while. I dug ditches, I was a bus conductor, I delivered milk, and then I was a singer. But you can't copy my life. You could try, but I don't really have any advice.
Sting, Doug from Rogers TV. What's your message to the community of Oshawa and for Jerry? Where do we sit right now with GM?
You know, we are telling your story, and it's important that your story is heard. You know, we are storytelling creatures, and the story is hugely important. This can't be buried under the political carpet. You know, as Jerry says, the world needs to know. Canada needs to get behind you. It's important. It's, you know, it's basically financial jiggery-pokery. You know, they just want to pay workers less in another place. That's not right.
And Jerry, where do
I
we
mean,
sit?
I think a lot of us in the cast, and Sting included, will support this town and their struggle. I mean, my dad was a shipyard worker in the very shipyard that we portray on stage. My granddads were both miners. Where my mum's dad went through the '85 strike as a union leader in Northumberland, and I think I've seen what's happened to towns, the town I was brought up in, and villages all around there, when those industries, the reason that those towns are there is removed, and it's devastating. And I think it's important that Jerry and his team and all the people in the plant continue the fight, because I think arbitrarily for GM just to remove the money, the investment, the history of this place on a whim, on their ability, their need, their want to pay people in Mexico less than people in Canada is immoral, and I think that we all support that fight.
Well said.
Kate Stoller, Durham Radio News, over here. Obviously, you're here to show support for the workers and just solidarity. Sting, what's your message to General Motors? What's your message to the company?
I think you have a duty to support the community that's worked for you, and it should be a mutual support system. It's about loyalty. You know, these workers have loyally given their lives to the company. It's a two-way street. You can't just walk away.
I've got CTV over here. I'm gonna hand it to CTV.
I already asked mine. I got it.
Okay, never mind, down the list. Who's next? Go ahead.
I just have a question. Apparently you met with some of the workers beforehand.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I understand you met with some of the workers beforehand.
Yeah.
And what was the sense you got? Are they feeling defeated because this is, despite the hell of a fight they're putting up, it seems to be a done deal?
You know, it was very evident to us performing on stage. We could see everyone's face. There was no darkness here, and I can see the worry on their faces. You know, I can see genuine concern about the future, and that was very moving for us as performers to see that close up. This is not a game.
Right.
This is real. And so, and then meeting them and hearing them. I think, you know, my strategy in life is always to have been optimistic. And when I see, you know, how effective this guy next to me is, you know, how tough he is, I think he'll get a result. I hope he does.
I've got Rachel from Oshawa. Right here.
Sorry, can I just switch thoughts with you? Sorry, because I can't reach. Hi there, Rika Sakeli, Oshawa this week. Obviously, there's a lot of support in this community for keeping this plant open. What do you think your presence here can do to broaden that support beyond this community into Canada and even further?
Help me out, Jerry. Go on.
Well, today is about elevating the profile of the issue. Today was about saying to General Motors in the strongest terms is that we're not accepting their decision to close the facilities. GM made a commitment to us in September of 2016, verbally and in writing, that they were not closing the plant. So after announcing $8.1 billion for 2018, my guess is it wouldn't be difficult for them to live up to their commitment. So today's performance highlights choices that people make in life. And those choices are to be made by General Motors as well. Because Canadians are furious, people feel betrayed. And today is about symbolizing all of the things that's wrong with raw capital when they walk away from communities that have supported them for generations. So today is about elevating the issue, and frankly, all of you can stop that defeatist attitude, because we are not stopping. We are going to do everything we can to make sure that General Motors reverses this horrendous decision.
Jerry, where do we sit right now with GM?
Well, GM right now is sitting there, my guess is they're not drinking champagne behind their desk. But there's no question we've gotten their attention. They're hoping we'll go away. The chances of that is zero. Canadians are punishing them every day. I talk to people every day on the streets. If you look at GM sales, they dropped 30% in December, 15% in January. So Canadians are punishing them, and that's the only thing they understand. So ultimately, GM can fix this. They can change their mind. We can move on. We can talk about what we're going to be doing next year in Oshawa. They have the whereabouts financially and product-wise to make a better decision. So the question is, do they have the intestinal fortitude to do it?
Where's Jane at the Toronto Sun? So I have Jane at the Toronto Sun next.
Hi guys, this is for Sting. Sting, beyond today, is there anything that you, the musical, or Mervish is doing in terms of continuing to support Unifor and the GM workers?
I mean, it's been an ongoing thing. You know, Jerry's now our best mate, so you know, he's now our union leader. So I hope so. I hope so. I certainly won't walk away from here and forget about you. You know, there's been a bond created here between the performers and the workers, and I'd like that to carry on. I mean, everyone in this cast was deeply moved by the privilege, by the honor of standing there and entertaining you. That doesn't disappear.
Got Morgan at the Chronicle. Where are you, Morgan?
Good afternoon. Could you please give some insight for what it's like for you emotionally when you return to your hometown, given what's happened to the shipyard there?
So I didn't hear that.
Can you give some insight for you emotionally, given what's happened to the shipbuilding community when you return home?
Can you give any insight into what's happened to the shipbuilding community when you go back to Newcastle?
Oh, I mean, the shipyard I was born next to is just a hole in the ground now. There is no shipbuilding in Great Britain anymore, and we used to build 85% of the world's shipping. 85% of it. In that particular yard, we built, as I say, the biggest ships ever built. There's nothing there now. Although they have had a little bit of a boost with building wind turbines, you know, big stuff. So there's some heavy industry coming back. But the town was devastated for a good, 30 years by one industry just failing and not being supported by the government, essentially.
Do you see the same thing happening here? If this plant closes, do you see the same thing happening here?
You have to speak to an expert. I'm just a rock singer, I mean.
I've got Will at Slow City left, and then we're going to take one last question.
Yeah.
Will, I need you to use the mic.
Yeah, hello. I'm just curious. You grew up in an area that you didn't find a job in, so then you left. Sorry. There is an awful lot of people who leave this community because they don't find work here at General Motors, especially the artistic community has to leave. Can you talk to the role of arts and creativity in a community when it comes to recovery from something like this?
I think it should be a choice whether or not you leave your community, become an exile, which is what I did. That was my choice. But in this case, there may not be a choice. If the industry shuts down, what do you do? Where do you go? I don't know the answer, but you deserve a choice. You deserve to be looked after better by the company that you've supported. It's very simple. It's a social contract which should be observed. You deserve to be treated better.
Okay, thank you all very much for being here today. It was a privilege as usual, and once again, on behalf of our members, on behalf of the community, thank you so much for being here today and helping us get our story out. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hey.